One second you're calling third and 8, and the next you're accidentally narrating your own career crisis. Whether it's booth gossip where announcers talk like they're at the airport bar, that guy can't block, they've got no answers. Or a domestic aside about hotel food, the hot mic leaks the human stuff through the cracks. Take Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. They're in an empty stadium during the pandemic, and after a military flyover, the mic catches them mid-conversation. Buck says, "That's a lot of jet fuel just to do that," and Aikman agrees. Instantly, it's not about the game. It's a national debate about patriotism, waste, and what broadcasters should say when they think the audience is gone. It's the least glamorous thing imaginable, and that's why it hits. You realize this billion-dollar league is narrated by regular people who are just tired and trying not to mess up a name. A rant about the hotel coffee, a complaint that this game is unwatchable, and the sudden cold realization that 10 million people just heard it. That's the price of admission. One unscripted moment can do more damage than 3 clean hours can undo. Now, the booth is supposed to be controlled. Notes in front of you, producer in your ear, and then live TV decides it's time to humble somebody. Start with Sergio Dip and Monday Night Football in 2017. This was a big stage, a debut, a chance to sound smooth. Instead, he delivers that now infamous sideline hit where the words just don't land. You can hear him fighting the moment in real time, trying to cram a whole biography, a coaching storyline, and a live game update into one breath. And here's the part people don't realize. He's got an IFB, that earpiece, and there's probably 3 different producers screaming 3 different instructions at him at once. Wrap it up. Give us the injury update. Toss back to the booth. And that's what makes it brutal, because it's not scandal. It's not even a hot take. It's the universal nightmare. You're in front of the whole country. The machine is crushing you in real time, and you still have to keep talking. Then you've got the flip side. Kevin Harlan in 2016. He's calling a meaningless blowout preseason game between the 49ers and Rams, and a fan runs onto the field. Most broadcasters would ignore it, maybe make a quick joke and move on. Not Harlan. He leans into the mic and calls the streakers every move like it's a game-winning drive. He's at the 40, the 30, the 20. He's gonna do a somersault. The man is drunk. In that moment, he didn't just report the interruption, he turned it into the most memorable play of the night. It's the ultimate lesson. When the game gives you chaos, sometimes the best move is to call it like it's the Super Bowl. Then you've got the Booger Mobile situation. This was the league and the network trying to innovate, and it turned into a weekly punchline. Because nothing screams professional broadcast like putting your analyst in a rolling contraption where the camera finds him and the internet immediately goes, "Why is he down there?" And here's the best part. The fans who paid thousands of dollars for sideline seats couldn't see the game anymore because a giant crane was blocking their view. The network spent millions trying to help people at home see the game better and ended up blinding the people in the front row. It's embarrassing for one reason. It makes the broadcaster the story. Not the 3rd and 6, not the red zone, the booth. And once you're the meme, you're not driving the conversation anymore. You're surviving it. But the chaos isn't always accidental. Sometimes it's an inside job. Take the Fox NFL Sunday prank on Rob Gronkowski. They fed him a totally fake breaking news segment about a fictional Pro Bowl tight end named Rich Russo being activated by the Cowboys, and Gronk does what a rookie analyst does. He tries to be a pro. He starts talking through it like, "All right, what's that mean for the offense?" And you can see him trying to keep it together while the veterans are barely holding in laughter. That's the whole prank right there. It's not the fake player. It's watching a guy try to stay on the tracks when the tracks aren't real. And that's the thing about broadcast crews, especially the long-running ones. They get that locker room energy, long travel days, same voices in your ear every week. Eventually, somebody says, "We need to mess with him," and the whole production truck nods like it's a power play drawn up on a whiteboard. The easiest pranks are the little sabotages. Swap a pronunciation guide so a guy is suddenly sweating over a name he said right for 10 years. Move the stat sheet so he grabs the wrong page and starts reading the backups numbers like they're the starters. Or the classic, leave some ridiculous prop in the booth where it's just barely in your partner's peripheral vision, so he's trying to call 3rd and goal while also thinking, "Why is there a plastic lobster on the desk?" But the real killers are the producer-driven ambushes, because the producer has the buttons. They've got the graphics. They've got the IFB. They've got the ability to set you up without you even realizing what you're walking into. And then you've got the player or coach who gets even. A broadcaster says something on Sunday, and 3 weeks later, that player is standing in a post-game interview with a mic in his face and just drops a little, "Yeah, I heard what y'all were saying," with that smile. Now the booth has to react in real time, and the producer is probably screaming, "Stay neutral," while X is already clipping it. This is also where the line gets thin, because not every prank lands. Sometimes it's hilarious and everybody laughs, and it becomes part of the crew's folklore. And sometimes it steps on a real nerve, because these are high-pressure jobs, and if you make a guy look incompetent on live TV, it's not a joke, that's a dent. Network execs love fun, they don't love uncontrolled. So yeah, the booth can feel like a fraternity house, but it's a frat house where the dean is watching and the punishment is primetime games disappearing. And then you've got the moments that aren't gaffes. They're just signature moves that get amplified until they're part of the broadcast's DNA. The king of this is Cris Collinsworth's "Now Here's a Guy." It's not a mistake. It's not a prank. It's just his go-to setup. But once the internet got a hold of it, it became a sport within the sport. Fans started tracking it, clipping every single "here's a guy" moment, turning it into supercuts, drinking games, and Twitter threads. Because that's the modern reality. Every verbal tick, every favorite phrase, every time you lean on the same crutch to describe a player, it gets cataloged, it gets memed. And suddenly you're not just analyzing a third down stop, you're feeding a running joke that millions of people are in on. It's the ultimate passive roast. The broadcaster isn't doing anything wrong, he's just being himself. And the audience has decided that this particular piece of himself is now public property. And once that happens, you can't take it back. Every time you say it, a chunk of the audience isn't hearing analysis anymore. They're hearing the meme. Now, sometimes the embarrassment isn't about the words, it's about the sounds coming out of the booth. Take Tony Romo during the 2024 Bills-Chiefs games. He's calling the classic AFC matchup, and during a key sequence, he tries to describe a holding penalty, and the words, they don't come out right. Instead, it's awkward, guttural noise, a vocalization that's supposed to be analysis, but ends up sounding like a man trying to start a lawnmower with a bad shoulder. Instantly, the internet pounces. The game becomes secondary. The conversation isn't about Josh Allen's arm or Patrick Mahomes' magic. It's about Romo's voice. Fans are clipping it, looping it, turning it into the soundtrack for every blooper reel. And Romo, a guy who made a career out of predicting plays before they happen, is suddenly the guy who can't predict his own vocal cords. He addressed the criticisms later, calling it a normal arc of a career, but that's the brutal part. It wasn't a hot take. It wasn't a mispronunciation. It was just a sound. A weird, unfiltered human sound that escaped the booth and became his brand for a week. It's the ultimate modern humiliation. Your professional mistake isn't being wrong, it's sounding strange. Now here's the version of near miss that isn't about a streaker or a prank. It's about the broadcast that almost didn't happen at all. The technical disaster waiting in the wings, the cable that gets unplugged, the generator that fails, the truck that loses power, the infrastructure meltdown that would leave you staring at a blue screen for 3 hours. Every network has a horror story. A power outage in the production truck during a 2-minute drill, a graphics computer freezing right before a critical replay, a satellite uplink going down in the middle of a Blizzard game where you can't see anyway. These are the nightmares that keep engineers up at night, because if the lights go out in the truck, it doesn't matter how good your call is, you're off the air. The contingency plans are wild. You've got backup trucks parked miles away, ready to roll. You've got secondary satellite paths. You've got engineers with literal cheat sheets for which cable to unplug and replug in a specific sequence to reboot a system in 30 seconds instead of 3 minutes. And you've got producers with a break glass plan. If we lose video, we go to radio call. If we lose audio, we go to standby announcer in a different location. If we lose everything, well, you start praying. But the closest calls aren't always technical. Sometimes it's human. A broadcaster gets sick minutes before air. A key analyst gets stuck in traffic because of an accident. The network has a break-in announcer on standby in a hotel room near the stadium, mic'd up and watching the game on TV, ready to take over the call from 1,000 miles away if someone can't make it to the booth. Think about that pressure. You're sitting in a hotel room watching the same feed as everyone at home, and you get the call. We need you in 30 seconds. Go. Now you have to sound like you've been there all along, like you know the flow of the game, the tendencies, the story, with zero prep, zero feel for the stadium energy, just you and a monitor. That's a different kind of near miss. It's the ghost in the machine, the alternate reality where the broadcast you know and love almost had a completely different voice, a completely different feel, because of a flat tire or a bad plate of shrimp. And fans would never know. They just hear a slightly different cadence, maybe a different emphasis on a key play, and think nothing of it. But behind the scenes, it was a full-blown crisis, averted by a producer hitting the right button, and a standby announcer not choking under the most bizarre pressure imaginable. That's the hidden world of the near miss. It's not about what went wrong on air. It's about what almost went wrong behind the curtain, in the dark, where the real show happens. And the second that clip hits the internet, the broadcast is over, but the crisis clock starts. Because the NFL's loud, but the internet's louder. One stray line, one awkward moment, and it's everywhere, trimmed down to 8 seconds, looped, captioned, and posted by accounts that don't care what happened on the play before or after. This is where you get the real scramble. Producers on the phone, executives asking what happened, legal checking what can be said, PR drafting the safest sentence ever written. You'll get the "we regret" statement. You'll get the "it wasn't our intent" statement. And then, if it's big enough, you'll get the on-air apology where everyone suddenly talks like they're in a meeting with HR. And here's the thing. Memes don't just dunk on you. Memes brand you. A single line doesn't just live for that weekend. It becomes a drop, a soundbite people throw on anything mildly chaotic. That's the part broadcasters underestimate. You're not fighting the moment anymore. You're fighting the remix of the moment. And after the jokes comes the part that actually hurts. Assignments. You don't always get fired. Sometimes it's worse. You get moved. You're off the A game, off the prime window, quietly reassigned to a less visible slot, like a cornerback getting benched without a public announcement. Same paycheck, less spotlight, and everyone in the business knows why. And if it's a pattern, that's when it gets real. Sponsors get nervous. Partners get careful. The network starts planning life without you. The job is already hard, but when you're calling games with one eye on the field and the other eye on tomorrow's clip, you start tightening up. And tight broadcasters make boring broadcasters. At the end of the day, this job is a live wire. One slip and you're trending for all the wrong reasons. Drop a comment. Which broadcaster moment is the most legendary to you, and which one was the most unfair? If you're buying these guys as pros under pressure, hit subscribe, because we've got more NFL stories where the tape absolutely doesn't lie.